What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports, back again with another one. We're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, a.k.a. America's team. A team that ain't been to the NFC Championship since 1995. Been 28 years, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, their season has ended prematurely and once again dashed the hopes of their delusional fans. Make no mistake about it, owner of the Dallas Cowboys, general manager of the Dallas Cowboys, big baller shot caller of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, is once again presiding over a team that has failed to live up to the hopes of not only himself, but everybody in that organization and that Dallas Cowboy fan base. Make no mistake about it, it's a very, very sad situation that's going on in Big D because they have a quarterback that can't get the job done. Make no mistake about it, he can't get the job done. Had a great regular season. Gonna finish runner-up in the MVP. Going to the Pro Bowl. Gonna be on the second team All-Pro, more than likely. You know, it's gonna probably be out of him, and I would suspect it's gonna be out of him and, Tua Tagovailoa, and you got Josh Allen. They'll be battling for a second and third All-Pro. Lamar Jackson gonna be on the first team All-Pro, make no mistake about it. He's gonna get a lot of accolades. But the problem with him is his playoff record is horrible. The man is 2-5. And I really ain't even tripping on this game this past Sunday because I was out on him last year. Because they played in the second round against the San Francisco 49ers, and the 49ers were right for the pickings. If Dak Prescott would have played average, they win that game, ladies and gentlemen. Dak Prescott was horrible in that game. That was his worst playoff game. And he's had many bad playoff games. That was his worst one of all time as far as playoff goes. He was horrible in that game. Horrible. 2 CD Lamb relying in that game. Throwing interceptions. Not seeing the field well. Panicking. Just played a horrible game. He was the main culprit in why they lost that game. Him and cornerback Diggs, who dropped the interception that could have put him in a strong position to win that game. Those two players were the main reasons why they lost that game. Make no mistake about it. This game this past Sunday, he was horrible once again, but the defense was even worse. The head coach and his preparation and having his team ready was even worse. So he played bad. He's not the type of quarterback that when things going bad, he can put a team on his back. He can't do that. He's a solid quarterback. Many people have him in the top 10. I got him in the top 10 toward the end of the top 10, not in the middle. Some people had him rated way too high this year. They had him, somewhere probably in the top 5 or right outside the top 5. I ain't have him that high. And after this year, he probably going to fall below the top 10 with the emergence of C.J. Stroud and Jordan Love. Now, the Green Bay Packers are a great young team. They got a bright future. Them and the Houston Texans are going to be on many people's list as Super Bowl participants going into next year. Make no mistake about it. That's going to be the pick that a lot of NFL analysts are going to have. They're going to be like, who your Super Bowl picks for the 2024-2025 season? They're going to say Houston versus Green Bay. Watch, you're going to see a lot of those picks. You always have people picking Mahomes in Kansas City and San Francisco, who got the best roster in the NFL, but a lot of those prognosticators, they want to make themselves look smart, want to make themselves look like they ahead of the curve. They beating everybody to the punch, so to speak. They're going to say, man, I'm going with Green Bay and Houston, man. Them two teams got great young talent, great coaches, great young quarterbacks who are only going to get better. They make a few shrewd moves in the draft and maybe free agency. They'll be able to be that team to represent their conference next season. So we will see what happens. And we will see what transpires. Now, Mike McCarthy, who has won a Super Bowl in his coaching tenure. That was 14 years ago. He's not a bad coach, but to me, he's not a motivator. He's not a guy that's going to get his team to run through walls for him, especially when you go from regular season mode to playoff season mode. Now, during the regular season, he's going to have his team prepared. They had the number 1 offense in the NFL this season. They had the number 5 defense in the NFL this season. So they had a very, very good regular season. He's had 3 straight 12-win seasons. But Mike McCarthy can't get the team over the hump. I believe that this year was a big reason. I think he was a big reason why they lost to the Green Bay Packers. Not so much as last year against the San Francisco 49ers in the second round of the playoffs. I put that loss on Dak Prescott. I believe that Mike McCarthy had his team ready to rock and roll in that game. The defense was outstanding, but Dak was horrible. If he was average, they probably win that game. So I don't put it on him as last year. But it's what about you doing this year? Last year's last year. What happened this year? And Mike McCarthy simply did not have his team ready to play. With all that being said, Dak Prescott is not the answer. He proved that to me last year versus the 49ers in the second round of the playoffs. So what he did this year was just like cherry on the icing of the cake. So I already knew that he wasn't the answer. It's just, I guess now everybody else is starting to see what I saw last year, that he's not the answer. But can you improve at the quarterback position? That's the question that needs to be answered for Dallas Cowboys owner. I would say front office, but it's all about Jerry Jones. He's going to be the ultimate decision maker. I know he's probably going to consult with his son, Steven, and his other son, Jerry Jones Jr. They'll both huddle up and decide what they want to do going forward. But Dallas Cowboys are at the crossroads. Meet me at the crossroads. Yeah, they at the crossroads, ladies and gentlemen. Because they got a head coach that's good, not great. They got a quarterback that's good, not great. And when you talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, who have a quarterback that's great and a head coach that's great, you look at the fact that the Baltimore Ravens have a coach that's great and a quarterback that's great. You look at the fact that a team in the same state as the Dallas Cowboys, the Houston Texans, seem to have a coach that's great and a quarterback that's on his way to greatness. You're going to have a hard time winning. You can load up your roster. You can have an all-star roster, but this is a quarterback's league. If your quarterback is not elite, and if your head coach is not elite, you ain't going to the mountaintop. You ain't winning no championship. And the Dallas Cowboys got 2 B's at their 2 most important position. They got a B head coach and a B quarterback in a league that you got to have at least one or the other, if not both. You got both of them, you really in a strong position. But you got to have at least an A coach and a B quarterback, or A quarterback and a B coach. The Cowboys ain't got neither. They got a B coach and a B quarterback. Now, the problem with all this is, can you improve? Yeah, you probably can improve as far as head coaching goes. You got some good head coaches out there available. You got 6-time Super Bowl winner Bill Belichick that's out there. You have one of the best young coaches in football that was unceremoniously fired by Bud Adams' daughter, who now runs the Tennessee Titans because he went and hung out with the New England Patriots when New England Patriots dared to honor him. Said some good things about their organization and their owner, and it rubbed the Tennessee Titans owner the wrong way. She never forgot that. And even after 1 down season, I guess 2 down seasons by the Tennessee Titans, she decided to fire him. He's out there. He goes by the name of Vrabel. He'll be able to bring his offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, who got fired as the head coach of Atlanta Falcons. When they were together, along with Derrick Henry and even an average quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, they was going to AFC championship games, ladies and gentlemen. They had the best record in the AFC. They lost on the last-second field goal to the AFC champions, to the future AFC champions at that time, the Cincinnati Bengals, ladies and gentlemen. They were one of the best teams in the NFL when those two were together, head coach, offensive coordinator combination. He's out there. You got Pete Carroll. Oh, energetic Pete Carroll, who got fired unceremoniously, kind of like Vrabel, but you maybe can see that as a little bit more justified as him being a little along in the two. 72-year-old Pete Carroll got let go by the Seattle Seahawks. He won a Super Bowl in Seattle, took him to another Super Bowl, and probably should have won that game if it wasn't for the horrible call at the 1-yard line. Instead of giving it to beast mode, they decided to pass it, and New England Patriots was able to intercept that ball and win that game in one of the better Super Bowls of this era, 28-24, which gave Tom Brady, if I'm not mistaken, his 5th Super Bowl ring. He was able to win another one when they beat the Los Angeles Rams, and then he won a 7th one when he became the second quarterback to win a championship for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they defeated Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in a home game when they played in their stadium during that COVID year of 2020. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But Mike McCarthy needs to go. Dak Prescott has 1 year left on his contract, which will pay him $59 million. I'm not giving Dak Prescott an extension. I'm not making Dak Prescott one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. He's going to play out his last year of his contract. I'm going to draft the quarterback in this year's draft. I'm going to elevate Trey Lance, who I spent a premium pick on to bring him over from the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to elevate him to the backup quarterback position. I have a young quarterback that I draft. As a 3rd-string quarterback, I have Trey Lance. As a 2nd-string quarterback, maybe the young quarterback, I'll play Trey Lance. We don't know what Trey Lance is. We've seen him on the field very little. He's been hurt. But from what I've seen, he's not a pure passer. He's a great athlete playing the quarterback position. He must improve his passing. You're going to have to change the offense for Trey Lance. He can't run the same offense that Dak Prescott runs, number one. He's got to be in a more run-oriented offense. You know, a lot of RPOs, a lot of zone reads. You know, a lot of when he get outside the pocket, use his athleticism. Kind of like the offense they ran in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson when he had offensive coordinator Greg Roman. Greg Roman might be a guy that you might want to look at, too, as far as bringing him on the staff. If you got Trey Lance, if you're looking to possibly put him in there. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But Dak Prescott, I will not give him an extension. He will play out his last season, and I will be looking to move on from Dak Prescott. He's basically, in my opinion, a bridge quarterback. He's going to bridge me into the 2025-2026 season. Under no circumstance am I going to give Dak Prescott an extension. Now, Mike McCarthy, he got to go. Now, I will fire him and try to bring in Mike Vrabel. Do I believe Mike Vrabel will be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys? No. Do I believe that Bill Belichick will be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys? No. Do I believe that Jim Harbaugh, who just won a national championship with the Michigan Wolverines, who took a team when last time he coached in the NFL to the Super Bowl, they lost on the last second play to the Baltimore Ravens, went to the NFC Championship game the next year. Even the last year that he had with the San Francisco 49ers, when things did not go well, he was fussing and fighting with the front office. He was still able to manage his team and coach his team to an 8-8 record. And they had a lot of issues going on. Colin Kaepernick had regressed. They had a lot of stuff going on. And he was still able to get that team to an 8-8 record. A great, great coach on both levels, on the collegiate level and on the NFL level. He's not going to take the job. This is what I think is going to happen. If you go back to the time that they hired Mike McCarthy, there was 2 finalists for that job. It was Mike McCarthy and Marvin Lewis. You know Marvin Lewis, right? He was the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he took them to the playoffs like 7 straight years, but they couldn't get out of the first round. Every year they got beat in the first round. Some of them years they were favorites. They lost to the Texans a couple of years ago. A couple of those years they were underdogs. But there was a couple of years I know they played the Chargers. the San Diego Chargers, the Phillip Rivers team, one of them teams that got in, last seeded team that got in, they went up to Cincinnati and beat the Bengals. And that Bengal team was loaded. I remember another year they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had a great team. They had Carson, they had Ocho Cinco, they had I forgot that boy name. They had this number 2 receiver. He was real good, man. He had I can't remember his name, man. He had a different last name. Let me just say it like that. He works for Fox Radio. He played there and he went to Baltimore. He was a good receiver. You had a good running back. They were loaded. They were loaded team. And Carson Wentz got hurt early in that game after throwing a deep pass to, I believe it was Ocho Cinco, and he got knocked out of that game and the team fell apart. So they had been to the playoffs 7 straight years. And every year they got beat in the first round. That guy, I wouldn't be crazy about bringing him in, but he was a finalist for the job last time around, which was ultimately given to Mike McCarthy. I think he'll be an option. I think Pete Carroll will be an option. Pete Carroll is out here saying that he ain't through, that he was ushered out the door unceremoniously by Seattle Seahawks general manager John Snyder, and the owner co-signed it, so they ousted him, but he's still saying that he's got the fire in his belly, that he still wants to coach. I think he'll be a guy that they'll look at. And I think a third guy that they'll look at is their own defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn. Fire Mike McCarthy, elevate Dan Quinn. You pretty much keep the coaching staff that you had this past season. You bring in an offensive coordinator, a young up-and-coming offensive coordinator to work with Dak, and also work with Trey Lance, who I would be looking at as a possible guy that I'd be looking to start in the future. I would draft a quarterback again out of this draft, maybe even as high as the first round. This is a strong quarterback draft coming out this year. You got Caleb Williams, who will go number 1. He won't be there when the Cowboys draft. They would just trade up to get him, and they're not going to do that. But you got Caleb Williams. You got Drake May, the quarterback out of North Carolina. You got Penix, the quarterback out of University of Washington, who I would like a lot. If his knees check out, I really like him. Very accurate. Left-handed guy, man. Very accurate from the pocket. I like Penix. You got Daniels, the quarterback out of LSU. Very athletic. Can throw and run. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Lamar Jackson. Not quite as athletic as Lamar Jackson, but at this stage, a more developed passer than Lamar Jackson was coming out of Louisville. I like him. I like Travis Johnson out of Florida State. Now, he's dealing with a catastrophic injury that he suffered at the end of this past collegiate season. So my doctors will have to check him out and make sure he'll be able to make a full recovery and come back at a high level. But he's a guy I'll be considering. He's a guy that's probably be there. You got Bo Nix out of Oregon. Now, Bo, man, he's made a great transformation. When I saw him in Auburn, he was a guy that ran around and made a lot of wild plays, but was not consistent from the pocket. But I think it was more of a talent issue at Auburn. You put him with elite talent and elite coaching, he played very well. He played very well at Oregon. I know a lot of people say, what you talking about elite talent? He played at Auburn in the SEC. I'm talking about on the offensive side of the ball. You know, I always have some good defensive players at Auburn, especially on the D-line. I'm talking about offensively, man. I'm talking about not only player-wise, I'm talking about coaching-wise. I don't think he had the right structure and the right situation at Auburn. He struggled, but he still made a lot of wild plays, making plays outside the pocket and stuff, playing that backyard football. I like that in him, and you got to be able to do that when the play break down in the NFL, get outside the pocket and make a play when the things are covered up. I like that as far as his game goes, and he seems to be a more polished pocket quarterback when playing at Oregon. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires, but those are some of the quarterbacks I'll be looking at. There's probably another quarterback that's name's escaping me that I probably didn't mention. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix. Those are the top 5 guys. There'll probably be another guy that emerges, has a great pro day, great workout at Indianapolis, Indiana NFL Combine that'll probably rise up the draft boards, maybe go late first round. But those are the 5 guys that makes this a very strong quarterback draft. I'll be looking to draft one of those guys in the first or second round. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But no way in hell I'm giving Dak Prescott an extension. He's going to play out his last year. He's a de facto bridge quarterback in my mind. I'm not going to tell him that. I'm just going to say, hey, man, I signed you for this amount of years. You play out this contract, and we'll see what happens after next year. That's what I tell him. But I be thinking in my mind, you a bridge quarterback. I'm moving on from you. Yeah, and I'm moving on from you. I'm looking at Trey Lance. I'm trying to see how he look in the preseason. If he's developing into a passer, I know he can run around and make plays, but he's got to be able to make plays from the pocket consistently. I'll be looking at him, and I'll bring in a young quarterback. Now, the backup quarterback they had last year, he won some games. Last year, he went 5-1. He's a limited quarterback. I like what I got out of him, but I'll probably be looking to trade him. You know, if I can get a second day or third day draft pick for him, I'll move on from him. He's limited. Cook, I think that's my boy's name. I might be mixing his name up with the receiver, Brandon Cook. But the backup quarterback, old redhead, I can't remember his name. He played well for the Cowboys last year. I'll be looking to move on from him. I know they signed him to a contract before last season. He was on the open market. I think him and his team believed that he was going to have a lot of teams looking to bring him in. He probably thought he had a chance to go somewhere and start, but that wasn't the case. So he ended up re-signing with the Cowboys, and he backed up Dak Prescott this season as Dak Prescott had the best season he had since his rookie season. But again, he came up shorter than a midget on his knees in playoffs. And that's why he must go. That's why you must not extend him. You must not make him part of your future. He has showed his true colors. A leopard don't change his spot at this stage of his career. He's been around and he's been playing for too long to think he's going to change drastically. You got to move on from Dak Prescott. He's not the answer. You got to get a running back. That's a guy that's physical, can run up the middle, can score in the red zone to complement Pollard. Pollard is a free agent. They franchise him. He's solid. I'll bring him back, but he would have to come back for a reasonable money. If he's looking for outrageous money based on what he did this year when he ran for, 1,003 yards in a 17-game season. Add that up. Divide that 17 game into 1,003 yards. That's 50, 60 yards per game. Did not have the year he had last year. Now, he was coming off an injury as he got hurt in the playoff game versus the 49ers. It ain't like he got hurt during the regular season, earlier in the regular season. He got hurt in the playoffs. So for him to come back and be ready to start this season and be ready to rock and roll, I salute him in that regard. But again, he did not produce the way he produced the year before. So I'll be looking to move on if he's asking for crazy money. You got a lot of other guys that'll be free agency. But the 3 guys that the Cowboys have reported to be looking to re-sign and bring back, that's going to take up most of their salary cap, is quarterback Dak Prescott, wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, and linebacker Micah Parsons. I will sign CeeDee Lamb. I will sign Micah Parsons. But again, I will not re-sign Dak Prescott. Won't do it. Jerry Jones seems to believe that Dak Prescott is that dude. He seems to believe that Dak Prescott is a franchise quarterback. And I believe if I had to put money on it, that he's probably going to re-sign Dak Prescott. If he does that, then the Cowboys will continue to be a team that comes up short in the playoffs and once again fail to get to the Super Bowl for another season and seasons to come. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Mike McCarthy, I believe, is out at the Dallas Cowboys. I think we hear some either Thursday or Friday. And I think the 2 likely names at the top of the Cowboys list are former Bengals head coach Marvin Lewis and former Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll, and current defensive coordinator Dan Quinn. I think it would be one of those 3 guys as the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Follow me on Facebook, Gerard Briscoe. Like, share, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. And I holla.